Hey guys, it's Otti again. I'm sitting here in Oberhausen at the Kulttempel. Besides me is Kyle from AUGER. Hi, first of all.
Hello, how are you doing?
Fine, and you?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Yeah, and we're here because today is a concert. It's called a wish concert. Is it in English? Do you say wish concert? Or is there a special term for it?
I don't really know, to be honest. I'm not sure if there's a direct translation, but my German is so bad that you could basically say anything and I'd say yes and agree to it. So.
Yeah, the concept is that people from this venue that are guests here could wish bands that should play here. So,
okay, right, okay.
And you're one of them. So, but we'll talk about this later. First of all, as we always hope that people watch that don't know you yet, maybe you can explain who you are and what's your band all about.
Yeah, so we are AUGER, and we are a band from the north of England, quite far up where it's really cold and wet on the coast, and we make sort of it's hard to really put it into a genre, but for the most part it's sort of dark alternative music, a lot of 80s influence, but bringing a lot of modern influence in it as well. So it's a whole mixed bag. I think the whole point of the project when it was started was just to be something different, but something that I personally would like to listen to, and band members at the time would also like to listen to, and then hopefully someone will also share that same view, and as it happens, people have. So yeah, we're just a peppy little band from England trying to make its mark.
And a really cool band. We're listening to you for a while now, and you have talked about it. The band has a little bit changed at the last time, so maybe you can explain what happened?
Yes, so the band was formed by myself and my good friend Kieran. He played guitar, and we did a whole host of shows together for about 3 or 4 years. And then he decided that, over a long period of time, it wasn't just sort of split decision, but he decided to pursue his sort of career as it was at the time, and focus on projects that were more along those sort of lines, and the band was taking up a lot of time, so I didn't want to get in the way of anything that might halt his progress in his professional career. So we had a nice understanding, and so recently it's been quite a nice chance to bring something different on. So that's when I have got Marcus on board to play the drums live. So, and that's been really great because it's otherwise quite electronic and pre-programmed music. So with all the synths, and obviously I play guitar, but it's a lot of stuff going on. So by having the acoustic drums, it really adds quite a real human element to an otherwise very programmed sort of thing. So it's been really nice, and it's added a little bit of extra oomph as well when we're playing on the stages. So yeah, it's been a really great addition, and maybe in the future there'll be a third member that will join with something, because I never played guitar on stage. It was always Kieran that did it. So although I wrote a lot of the guitar parts, I did have to kind of relearn how to play guitar a little bit and do it on stage. So I always feel very sort of stuck to the microphone sometimes, and I would go to walk away and I'm like, oh whoops, I can't, because the microphone can't move with me. So yeah, the band's an ever developing project, but its heart is in making original music that we're very passionate about.
Yeah, cool. And so you would say all those changes have changed the feeling of AUGER in a positive way?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. And obviously there will always be some sort of concern about how it would change from a musical point of view, but the point is that it always did anyway. Between one album you've got everything from sort of dance music to sort of new wave to really heavy metal. So it's always been diverse, and it's always been different from the last of it. So any changes are always going to be positive, and just bringing on like-minded, passionate people is the key to it, really. And if someone brings a big change, then great, because we need to keep it different and keep it interesting.
So it's the new members, for example, or the new drummer at this case, brings in input, brings in his own ideas maybe even, or do you still write the songs mostly on your own?
I still write the songs by myself, but it's been really great to have the live drums on, because I've not been strict about what Marcus plays live. I've said, as long as you hit, they always say, as long as you hit the cymbals when the chorus starts, and you keep it fall to the floor in some songs, they're not really bothered what you do. So what has ended up happening is he's sort of developed his own style and his own sort of musicality to the songs, which were otherwise written by me, and I'm not a drummer, so I don't really know what I'm doing. So actually, when he comes on, he's sort of saying, well, actually, if you do this, it sounds even better, and he's 100% right. And there's a couple of bits that he's been doing live on some of the newer tracks that I've thought, actually, let's stick that in the studio version, because I really like the way that works. So it's a really nice relationship where it sort of benefits the music in sort of almost like an indirect way. But live is when it really comes together.
Yeah, cool. And we are talking about live now. Today you are playing live at this beautiful event with 5 bands. It's really cool. But you're the only international act. So is this for you a little bit strange to be the only?
It isn't the first time. We used to call ourselves Band in a Box, because our gear and our merchandise fits in a very small suitcase. So we can go out to anywhere at a moment's notice and try and do as many shows as possible. So we have been in a situation before where even the audience have been confused as to why we're there. It's like, you've come from England? Yeah. I think making the most of the fact that I'm still young and I can still do that without being too affected by it. But it's nice. It's nice to have a little bit of difference about it, and everyone's so friendly here anyway, and the other bands and the audience are always very enthusiastic at this sort of side of the world. So any excuse to play Germany, we're all over it, as you'll see from next year and how many shows there are. So yeah.
And I think there's a highlight, for example, Amphi Festival you are playing.
Yes. Yeah.
And I've read a little bit story about it. There's a family connection for you, so maybe you can explain it to the people outside.
Yeah, so Amphi Festival has been a thing that I've been aware of for a very, very long time, which obviously in this scene and in this country in general, people know what Amphi Festival is, but people in the UK don't. I mean, the scene is very, very small and underground anyway, but I grew up with the posters on my wall because of my parents who are in the sort of scene. So for me, it was like, why doesn't everyone know about this festival? It's great, it happens all the time. But my mum actually played it in, I want to say 2007 or 8, as one of the two. So yeah, she played it with her band Novus. So I've always had that poster on my wall. So it's been really special to finally have the opportunity to play it. I a little bit had a taste of it when I joined Massive Ego on stage, because we did a song together, and I flew over in 2019 to do it, and I knew that I really, really wanted to get that festival, and we managed to play Wake Gothic Treffen this year, so that was another one on the list. So Amphi Festival is one of those ones that it's a real, like almost like a landmark for us to try and do, a really good milestone, and nice to be able to share that with my mum, although she played the theatre, and I believe we're playing the boat, which I'm very excited about. So I won't start a mosh pit that tries to rock the boat. I'm tempted, but I'll behave, I promise.
The boat is a little bit different than the other stages because it's on the Rhine. It's really a boat. Maybe some people don't know. And it depends on how low or high the Rhine is. If it's close or far from the rest of the festival sometimes.
Right. And I did quickly go on the boat last time I was there, and I did realise it was quite a long plank you have to kind of walk out to get to it. It was really exciting though. It's such a cool venue. I love the balcony over it, and there was someone there flying a little drone with a camera on it to get the footage for the after movie, and I had this great sort of memory of, I think it was Lemon Mortel who were playing at the time, and they were standing on stage singing, and this drone just sort of flies between their legs and up around. I thought that whoever's flying that drone has some serious kahunas on them, and skill for that matter, but knowing my luck, I'd probably end up stepping on the drone or getting it caught in my mouth or something. But we'll wait for that to happen.
You'll be fine with it, I think. And if so, maybe you have good insurance. So it makes for great YouTube views, I think. Yeah, that's definitely. So, but as you mentioned, Lemon Mortel, when you go out, which bands do you like to watch? What are your favorites at the moment?
I have this worst luck in the world where all the bands that I want to see just so happened to be playing on the exact same day that I'm playing. So I've missed out on seeing quite a lot of bands that I've been wanting to see, but I do get a chance to every now and then. And one of the bands is, I love White Lies and Editors. They're like two of my favourite bands. Interpol as well. I'm into sort of the very, that kind of darker indie sort of music. But I'm also a big 80s fan, so I recently saw Marillion, Fish Marillion, who are absolutely brilliant, and I've seen Simple Minds. I still haven't seen Tears for Fears, one of my favourite bands, but I'm hoping to see them at some point soon. So, but I've seen everything from that, sort of even the really heaviest stuff at Bloodstock and Download Festival in the UK, quite heavy metal festivals. So I like all music. There's not really a band. It's a band that sort of catches my eye. I will do my best to try and go and see them. But yeah, in terms of like any sort of specific ones, there's just probably too many to even list. I'm seeing Hosier actually in a week next week, and that's quite an interesting one because it's a little bit different. But I'm a big fan of folk stuff as well, so that'll be quite an interesting one to go to. But I like being surprised, so really it's quite nice. Obviously, even though the band's touring schedules seem to conflict with mine, it's still really nice to see support bands or maybe headline bands that we're supporting. And that's always a quite nice surprise because sometimes I haven't listened to them, and it's quite nice to discover new bands that way. And there's been some really good ones that have really caught my eye, especially at the festivals as well. It's always nice to have a bit of a wander around and see what's happening.
And I think always all music is some kind of input to maybe even develop, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do, ever since sort of starting the band, I have sort of become a bit of an analyzer, I guess, where I've kind of watched what the musicians and singers are doing to try and think, right, what are they doing that works that I could do, or what are they doing that doesn't work that I could avoid, and trying to sort of build on that, and even touring with bands, and obviously you end up watching them 10 times over, so just picking up little bits about how they do it is always great to sort of put into my own craft to sort of see how we can make it a bit more interesting, because I always want to make the most impactful live show as possible. So if there's a trick that I'm missing, then I want to be able to know what that trick is to do it.
Totally understand, yes. You want to get better.
Yeah, of course.
It's always about getting better, about getting maybe bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. We famously have always gone into a show with the idea of maximising it absolutely, no matter how big or small it is. It's a case of if you put 100% in, you get that back. So put 150% in and you'll get more back. So we've always had this sort of ethos of just doing the very, very best that we can in the hope that it pays off. So I think with that mentality, it's sort of helped grow a little bit.
Yeah. So, and we have to talk a little bit about records now, because life is cool, but a band like you also have cool records, have some cool stuff out. And the newest one still is Nighthawks, I think.
Nighthawks, yeah.
It's from 2022, last year.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this, not too long, but maybe you can at least tell the people outside what's Nighthawks all about. What are the main topics that you wrote about back then?
So Nighthawks, I think as I called it in the description, was very much felt like a first album, even though it was a fourth. It was kind of like the coming together of all the different styles we kind of delved in at that point. And it felt very sort of consistent. The whole album was based off of this one song that I wrote, the intro song called City Never Sleeps. And whenever I write a song, the first thing I love to do is to play it to Stephen, my stepdad. And I love seeing what his opinion is, and he normally tells me about what he likes about the song and stuff, and give me really good feedback. So I'd written this song, but I'd written it differently. I didn't just go in and write it. I kind of had a visual for it. I sort of somehow pictured this sort of avant-garde, sort of even like almost Art Deco American scene. It's kind of raining and it's dimly lit artificial light, and you're walking and it's cold and it's nighttime. And I just had this visual, and I kind of wrote this song off the back of it. And then didn't think too much about it. And then when I played it to my stepdad, Stephen, he normally comments on the music, and he did, But the first thing he commented on was the visual. He said, it gives me this vibe of like an old American street with a thing. And I thought, how has that come across in this? And then he said, it reminds me of this famous painting, I think it's called Nighthawks. And so I looked the painting up and I could not believe that it was exactly what I had in mind. Like that exact scene was what I pictured, that artificial light, the whole album concept was this loneliness in company. So to sort of be amongst people, but to still feel lonely. Sort of a lot of people kind of feel that way, and even in relationships, you can be with someone and they're there, but you kind of somehow feel apart in some way. So that is what that painting by Edward Hopper really portrays so well. None of them are looking at each other. There's no eye contact in the whole painting, and it's really interesting that he picked up on that. So that sort of became the basis of the whole album, and I started to sort of write songs along those sort of lines. And I flew over to America a couple of times to see the painting, and then stayed for about 2 months in Chicago, where the painting's based, and sort of set up camp there, and really sort of tried to immerse myself with as much sort of Americana as I could, and sort of put that into the album and into the different songs and create a very sort of visual atmosphere. And that was carried over then in the booklet as well, because the booklet is each different page in the booklet is a different art piece based on the song titles. So it became a bit of a gallery, and it was a really nice concept to do and very, very creative. And that sort of loneliness and company became the sort of topic for a lot of the songs, whether it's Oxygen or whether it's Smother or any of the tracks on there. That's sort of the main sort of story behind it, just interpreted in different ways.
And it's a really strong album, so people check out, buy it, stream it, do everything with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to come to an end now, but for sure you are going to do something new, having a new drummer, having new input, having new ideas. Yeah. So what's how far are you with writing new material? What's coming?
If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said that I'm basically ready to start properly recording, because I've got loads of demos. And then I started to write stuff, and over the course of a couple of weeks I've written sort of 3 or 4 more songs, so now sort of the landscape's changed. But there is new stuff in the works. It's got a very positive sort of vibe to it. It's not even necessarily negative or positive, it's more like kind of uplifting. So there's some sort of sense of somber within it, obviously to keep it dark, but there is definitely a sort of optimistic sort of view with it that's like a feel-good sort of sense, and a lot of the influence that I've drawn on is bands like Viele from the sort of early 2000s, late 90s, that kind of big arena pop rock stuff, and I tried to sort of bring that really good feel-good attitude into the album and create a bit more energy. But with the recent events happening, recently lost a friend who I would have loved to see at this show as well, Deco. So that, along with my dad's health as well, has sort of inspired a couple of new tracks as well. But I'm now sort of working on a way to make them uplifting in a certain way. So it's exciting. I think it's the first time when I've really taken my time to get it absolutely right. Not that I haven't in the past, but since we started in late 2017, we had a first album about 2 months later. It technically got released in 2018 in April, and then we had an album the next year, and then the next year, and then the next year. So there's been a lot in a very short space of time, but this time I'm sort of, if it takes an extra 6 months, then it takes an extra 6 months. I really want to make sure it's 100% right, and everything I can put in there gets put in there, and every lyric that I can think about wording better or doing it, I really want to make sure that it does justice, because the topics have now become very, very important to me. They're already important, but when obviously you go through stuff and you lose people, you sort of, the importance is reinvigorated, and now I want to do justice for them as much as myself. So I really want to make sure it's great, but I'm really excited for it, and we're playing a couple of new tracks tonight.
Oh, cool.
As well. So yeah, and it all seems to be going down really well, which is always a good sign, because you never really know, doing new stuff. Fans quite rightly, they love what they love, and so you can't expect them to like every single song you put out. But it's nice to see that as we've been putting the songs in the set, sort of weaving them in to test the water with it, it's been received really, really well. So I'm excited for it, and I'm looking forward to really getting creative with the whole production side of things, and yeah, just having a finished product at the end of it that we can share with as many people as possible, with all the shows that we've got coming up as well. So it's going to be it's an exciting time for AUGER, I think, and this AUGER train that we speak of metaphorically doesn't stop moving. It just keeps going at a certain pace, and people come on, people come off, but it goes in one direction.
That's cool. And I just almost had forgotten one question, because I've seen you have done a cover, Venation acoustic cover.
Yes.
How did this come up? This I have to know, because Ronan is a really cool guy. And how did you come up to cover Venation in an acoustic way?
That cover is actually a clip of a live stream during lockdown. I did lots of live streams, just because most people had nothing else to do. They were quite lonely, I was quite lonely, so I thought, well, I could just put on a free show for everyone, and if they want to do it, they can come along. If they don't, they don't. But it ended up becoming a thing, and people were sort of really excited for it, and they would suggest covers, and often, I mean, I did about 12 of them, I think. Towards the end, every single one was over 5 hours long, which is a long time to be playing guitar. My fingers were absolutely ruined by the end of it. But it got to the point where people started to just recommend random songs that I'd never heard of before, and I was like, let's see what happens, you know. You couldn't do that live, but yeah, so it was really good fun, and part of that is part of the Halloween one. I did some songs, and I'd always wanted to sort of sing that song. It's such a beautiful song. It's so perfectly written. It's a direct song. Like, the lyrics aren't very metaphorical. They're very straightforward, but somehow it's perfect. It's so well done. And bizarrely, I'd never actually looked at the lyrics before. And when I did that cover, I obviously knew how it went, and I knew the tune. So I just started playing and then reading the lyrics for the first time live. So I'm actually glad it came out all right. But I dedicated it at the time to Sophie Lancaster, who Venation dedicated that song to, straight after she was murdered. So it was a nice little chance to sort of give recognition. It'd only just been her birthday, so it was on my mind to do it. And I work for the Sophie Lancaster Foundation as well, so that sort of tie.
So maybe for the German audience, or for the people who don't know what's.
Yeah, the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is based was founded by Sophie's mum Sylvia shortly after she was murdered, and she was murdered after walking in a park with her boyfriend, attacked by 5 boys, and the only reason why she was picked on as a target was because she dressed differently. And I mean, how absurd that is a consequence of how you dress. Something as trivial as the colour of the cotton that's draping on you. So it's so absurd. So, but that was it, and the judge recognised that it was, you know, a hate crime worthy of any other, like race, religion, whatever it is. She was solely picked on that basis, and no one should ever suffer that. And as it happens, this whole community is riddled with people who are constantly under attack from someone for just being who they are, which is such a simple human right to be who you want to be, and they are, you know, abused physically or verbally, and it makes people's lives very, very hard for each other. So the foundation's works with schools and the community, wider community as well, to sort of teach about tolerance and to sort of bring out the prejudice amongst young kids, but then discuss them and say, why have you said these things, in order to kind of change mindset. So that's sort of what the foundation does, and that's off the back of, it's named after Sophie. I always wear the band on stage as well, you probably spot that, but yeah, so that's the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, and it was 17 years ago now as well, so it's a long time, but it's still so important, and the community, it still means a lot to the community as well. So, and it is quite impressive that it, obviously I mentioned it a few times over here and people know about it, because it's such a, it sent real shockwaves around the world, I think, when it happened. So yeah, I'm very proud to be doing the work that I'm doing with that and also tying it in with the music stuff, like doing little covers and stuff. I think it all just shows how great this community is, and how nice everyone is, and how we all sort of get on. So it's always baffling to me that the community that gets picked on the most is like the friendliest community there is. I mean, we all get on so well. I mean, we've come all the way from England to a place where obviously English isn't everyone's first language, and everyone is so kind and welcoming, and they're willing to sort of literally not even speak their mother tongue to have a nice conversation with you. That's something that we don't take for granted at all. Like, we really appreciate that. So it just goes to show how nice the community is, and it's mad that this whole prejudice thing is still such a problem. But that's what we're here for.
It lasts on, yes, that's a problem. So yeah, that was really impressive to me, because I knew about the story, but not about the foundation, for example.
Okay,
But let's come to something a little bit more bright and to an end. So it touches me, but we don't want to be at the end of this interview with tears in our eyes. So maybe what are your positive wishes for the near future? Things that really can change and maybe will change. What do you think? What makes you positive thinking?
What makes in general?
In general, yes.
I feel a lot of things. I always try and look for positives in things, because it's a really overlooked thing at how easy it is to find positives in stuff, and how you can turn any situation into a bit of a positive. So I'm always on the lookout of trying to find some reason why a situation is positive. I've driven all the way home from Leipzig, which is 17 hours, and I still found a positive meaning behind it. I walked from Frankfurt airport to my hotel with all the gear, and I tell you, that's a long walk. That took us about 4 hours, and I still found a positive, and I can still laugh about it. But yeah, I mean, life in general is something to be very positive about. Obviously, we're in a world at the moment that is a little bit up in the air with anything from politics to war to poverty to all this kind of stuff. But life is with what you make of it, and to be grateful to be in a position where you are surrounded by amazing community and family, I think, is something we shouldn't take for granted. And there's so many great things about just getting up in the morning and having a nice cup of tea. I mean, it's so simple, but sometimes we don't step back and enjoy that. So I've been doing that a lot more recently, and just taking a pause. And it's amazing what a 3-second pause can do, just to analyze where you are in your surroundings, and a nice house, or good friends, or a good meal later on that day. I mean, there's so many great things to be positive about and be thankful for. So it's a really, really wonderful situation that we're all in, and yeah, I just it's nice to be nice, and it's easy to be positive, I think.
Couldn't be better ending, I think, for this interview.
Oh, good.
Perfect word. So
a slightly happier note to end on.
Yeah, that's cool. So thank you for the cool talk.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Guys outside, thanks for watching. Check out AUGER if you didn't already. Go to the concert, buy the CDs, and we'll meet again, I think, latest at Amphi Festival.
Yeah, sounds good. Look forward to it. On the boat.
Yes. So see you.
See you later. Bye.